What would you do if the men who destroyed your farm didn't know you were the deadliest Delta Force operative in history? Follow single mother Sarah Miller's ruthless path of vengeance as she's forced to unleash her lethal past skills when the Blackwater Gang threatens everything she loves. The night sky turned orange as flames ate my barn. I could feel the heat on my face, even from 50 yards away. My hands shook as I held Emma and Liam close to me, their small bodies trembling against mine. Just yesterday, I was Sarah Miller, just a regular mom trying to make ends meet on our little farm. Today, I watched everything burn. Mommy, why are those men hurting our animals? Emma's voice cracked. She was only 6, too young to understand the cruelty of the world. Shoo, baby, I whispered, pulling her closer. Don't look. The Blackwater Gang's trucks formed a half circle around my burning barn, their headlights cutting through the smoke. 5 men stood watching the fire, passing a bottle between them, laughing. My stomach turned as I spotted the gang's leader, a tall man with a scar running down his left cheek. Decker. Just 3 days ago, he'd shown up at my door with that fake smile. Protection money, he'd called it. When I told him I barely had enough to feed my kids, his smile disappeared. Think about it. Ms. Miller, he'd said. Bad things happen to farms that don't have protection. Now I was watching those bad things happen in real time. Liam tugged at my shirt. Mom, what about Daisy? His voice shook when he mentioned his favorite cow. I swallowed hard. I'd managed to free most of the animals, but not all of them. The thought made me sick. We were hiding in the tall grass beyond the house. I grabbed my kids from their beds when I heard the trucks coming and ran out the back door. Somehow, they hadn't spotted us yet. One of the men broke from the group, walking toward our house with a gas can. No, I whispered. The farm was all we had. After John died in that car, crashed 2 years ago, I poured everything into making this place work. Every penny, every drop of sweat. The man splashed gas across my front porch. Something dark and cold stirred inside me. Something I'd buried 8 years ago when I left the military and promised myself a normal life. My fingers dug into the dirt beneath me, and for a split second, I forgot my children were watching. I forgot the person I'd been trying to be. Mom, you're scaring me, Liam whispered, touching my arm. I looked down and realized my face had changed. My kids had never seen this look before, the one that had earned me the nickname Ghost during my Delta Force days. The look that meant someone wasn't going to live through the night. I forced my face to soften. It's okay, baby. We're going to be okay. But we weren't. Even if the house survived, the barn was gone. The crops would be next. We couldn't live here anymore. 8 years of trying to be normal, trying to forget what I was capable of, gone in minutes. Decker's voice carried across the yard. Find her. I want her to watch when we torch the house. 2 men broke away, flashlights sweeping the darkness. Come on, I whispered to the kids. We need to move. We crawled backward through the grass, painfully slow, until we reached the line of trees behind our property. The kids were crying softly now, but they knew enough to stay quiet. I taught them that much, at least. Basic survival skills disguised as games. Once in the trees, I picked up Liam and took Emma's hand. We need to run now. Fast and quiet, just like we practiced. Emma looked up at me, her eyes reflecting the distant fire. Where are we going? To Ms. Martha's house, I said, naming our closest neighbor. 3 miles away, but she was our only hope tonight. We moved through the woods, the path familiar, even in darkness. Every twig snap made me flinch. Every rustle in the bushes made me reach for a weapon I no longer carried. The kids were exhausted when Martha's farmhouse finally came into view. The lights were on despite the late hour. I stopped at the edge of her yard, scanning for threats. Old habits. Sarah, Martha called from her porch, peering into the darkness. Is that you? I can see the fire from here. I stepped into the light, children in tow. Martha gasped when she saw our dirty faces and my hard expression. They came, I said simply. The Blackwater Gang. Martha rushed down the steps. At 65, she moved with surprising speed. Get these babies inside. Are you hurt? I shook my head as she ushered us in. The kids collapsed on her couch, too tired to even stay awake for the cookies she offered. After they fell asleep, Martha handed me a mug of something stronger than tea. They'll be back, she said quietly. Decker doesn't leave jobs half-finished. I took a long sip, feeling the whiskey burn. I know. Martha studied my face. You're not as scared as you should be. My hand tightened around the mug. I'd known Martha for 5 years, but she knew nothing about my past. No one here did. I'm terrified, I lied. But the truth was, beneath the shock and grief, something else was building. Something I'd kept locked away since I'd left the service. The part of me that knew exactly how to hunt men like Decker. The part that had made me the most effective operative in Delta Force history. You should call the sheriff in the morning, Martha suggested. I nodded, but I already knew Sheriff Davis wouldn't help. The Blackwater Gang owned him, just like they owned half the county now. As Martha turned to check on the kids, I stared out the window toward the orange glow on the horizon. My farm, my normal life, gone. These men thought they destroyed a helpless single mother tonight. They had no idea what they'd really done. They'd awakened Ghost, and that was the most dangerous mistake they could have made. Because while Sarah Miller might have been a struggling farmer, Ghost had been something else entirely. The kind of soldier even other special forces operators whispered about. The operative with the highest kill count in Delta Force history. I looked at my sleeping children and made them a silent promise. I would keep them safe. And then I would make Decker and his men pay for what they'd done tonight. But first, I needed to become someone I'd sworn never to be again. The morning sun streamed through Martha's kitchen window as I stared at my phone. No service. The Blackwater Gang had likely cut the lines to the whole area. Smart. Mommy, when can we go home? Emma asked, her small fingers playing with her cereal. I smoothed her hair, heartbreaking at the question. Not yet, sweetheart. Our house needs some fixing first. Martha gave me a look over Emma's head. She'd gone to check on my property at dawn. The house was still standing, but everything else was destroyed. Why don't you two go feed the chickens with Ms. Martha? I suggested, forcing a smile. When they were out of earshot, I moved quickly. Martha's old farmhouse had the same layout as most in the area. I found what I was looking for beneath the loose floorboard in her guest bathroom, my emergency cache. Nobody knew about it, not even John when he was alive. The metal box contained what little remained of my past life. 3 fake IDs, $10,000 in cash, a prepaid satellite phone, and a small key to a storage unit 3 towns over. I grabbed the phone and headed outside, walking far enough from the house that little ears couldn't hear me. The number I dialed hadn't changed in 8 years. It rang 3 times before a familiar voice answered. Encrypted line, go ahead. I took a deep breath. Hayes, it's Ghost. Silence stretched for 5 seconds. Authentication code, he finally demanded, voice tight. Sierra 1094 Whiskey Delta. I replied. The code burned into my memory forever. Jesus Christ, Colonel Hayes exhaled. I thought you were dead. That was the idea, I said. I need intel on a local outfit called the Blackwater Gang, operating in Westridge County. Ghost, Sarah, you're supposed to be out. Civilian life, remember? That was the deal after Kandahar. My jaw tightened. They burned my farm last night. My kids were almost inside. More silence. Then, give me 2 hours. I ended the call and leaned against a tree, suddenly dizzy. Just saying my old call sign aloud had brought everything rushing back. The weight of body armor, the smell of gunpowder, the metallic taste of adrenaline. Mom! Liam's voice snapped me back. He ran across the yard, holding something in his cupped hands. Look what Ms. Martha gave me. It was a tiny yellow chick peeping softly in his palms. My son's face glowed with wonder, a stark contrast to his terror last night. I crouched down. That's wonderful, buddy. Is it yours to keep? He nodded enthusiastically. Ms. Martha says we can take it home when our house is better. The innocence in his eyes nearly broke me. He had no idea that home might never be safe again. Back inside, I found Martha alone in the kitchen. Sarah, she said quietly, Sheriff Davis just called. He's asking questions about trespassers on your property last night. My blood ran cold. Already the story was being rewritten. Did he mention me or the kids? Martha shook her head. Not specifically. But Sarah, Davis works for them. Everyone knows it. I nodded. I need to borrow your truck. Where are you going? To get supplies, I said vaguely. Can you watch Emma and Liam for a few hours? She agreed, but her eyes held questions I couldn't answer. The drive to Westridge took 30 minutes. I parked behind a library and used their public computer, searching for anything on the Blackwater Gang. Local news articles mentioned them as alleged troublemakers, but charges never stuck. They'd started as small-time thugs 3 years ago and now controlled most of the rural businesses through security contracts. My satellite phone buzzed as I walked back to the truck. They're not just local muscle, Hayes said without preamble. They're running guns through your county, distributing to 3 states. Significant operation. I processed this. Decker, the leader. What's his story? Hayes paused. That's where it gets interesting. Decker isn't in any database. He's using an alias. I concluded, unsurprised. Got a description? I provided the details, including the distinctive scar. Hayes went quiet. I could hear keyboards clicking in the background. Ghost, I'm sending you a photo. Tell me if this is your man. My phone pinged. I opened the image and nearly dropped the device. The face staring back at me was older, harder, but unmistakable. James Reeves, CIA liaison to my Delta team in Afghanistan. That's him, I whispered. Hayes cursed softly. I was afraid of that. Reeves disappeared 3 years ago, suspected of selling classified intel before he went dark. My mind raced. 3 years ago, when the Blackwater Gang first appeared. There's more, Hayes continued. Reeves was the handler for Operation Sandstorm. My blood turned to ice. Operation Sandstorm. Kandahar. The mission that had destroyed my team and forced me to disappear. He was the one who gave us bad intel, I said, my voice deadly calm. The reason my entire team died in that ambush. Yes, Hayes confirmed. And if he recognized you, he didn't. I cut in. To him, I'm just a single mother who wouldn't pay protection money. But my mind was working furiously. Was it really coincidence that Reeves, now Decker, had ended up in the same county where I'd hidden? Had he somehow tracked me? I need resources, I decided. Non-traceable. Ghost, think about this, Hayes warned. You've been out 8 years. You have children now. That's exactly why I need to end this, I said. What are the chances he just happened to set up operations where I'm living? He knows who I am, Hayes. And if he doesn't yet, he will soon. Hayes sighed heavily. There's an arms cache in a storage facility off Highway 16. Unit 237. Combination is your daughter's birthday. I frowned. How do you know my daughter's birthday? Because I never stopped monitoring potential threats to you, he replied simply. I told you 8 years ago. You were too valuable to lose completely. This revelation should have angered me. But instead, a wave of cold relief washed over me. I wasn't completely alone. One more thing, Hayes said. Reeves isn't working alone. His cartel connections run deep, and intelligence suggests he's moving something big through your area soon. Whatever you're planning, be careful. I ended the call and sat in the truck, mind racing. Decker wasn't just some local criminal. He was James Reeves, the man responsible for the deaths of my entire team. The man I'd sworn to kill if I ever found him. And he'd just attacked my family. As I turned the key in the ignition, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes had changed, harder, focused, calculating angles and escape routes automatically. The eyes of Ghost, not Sarah Miller. I had one stop to make before returning to Martha's. It was time to visit Storage Unit 237 and reclaim the weapons of my former life. Because Decker and his men would be back. And when they came, they wouldn't find a helpless farmer waiting for them. They would find the woman they'd spent years pretending had never existed. The most lethal operative Delta Force had ever created. The storage unit smelled like metal and dust. I entered the code, Emma's birthday, and the padlock clicked open. Inside, beneath a tarp, was everything I never wanted to see again. My hands moved automatically, checking the weapons. 8 years hadn't dulled my muscle memory. I selected what I needed, a combat knife, a 9mm handgun with silencer, and a small kit of surveillance equipment. The rest would stay hidden. For now, I tucked the knife into my boot and the gun into a hidden holster under my jacket. Strange how familiar they felt, like shaking hands with an old friend. A dangerous friend. It was time to get information. And in a small town like this, there was only one place where men talked freely, Rusty's bar. Night had fallen by the time I reached the dusty parking lot. The neon beer signs cast red and blue shadows across my borrowed truck. Inside, country music played too loud while pool balls cracked against each other. I'd changed my appearance. My blonde hair was now dark brown, colored with drugstore dye. Colored contacts turned my blue eyes brown. Makeup made me look older, harder. The woman in the rearview mirror didn't look like Sarah Miller, farmer and mother. She looked like someone else. Someone dangerous. 3 of Decker's men sat at a corner table. I recognized them from the fire. Tyler, the tall one with tattoos climbing up his neck. Marco, stocky with a perpetual sneer. And Vince, younger than the others, always fingering the knife at his belt. I took a seat at the bar, ordered whiskey, and pretended to sip it while watching them in the mirror behind the bottles. Another round, Tyler called out, laughing too loud at something Marco said. The bartender, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, brought their beers without making eye contact. Put on a Miller tab, Tyler joked. The others laughed. My hand tightened around my glass. I forced myself to stay calm, to remember why I was here. Information, not revenge. Not yet. You boys sure made a mess last night, the bartender muttered. Tyler leaned forward. You got something to say, Donna? She quickly shook her head. None of my business. That's right, Marco chimed in. And it's nobody else's business either. They went back to their drinks, and I watched as the locals gave their table a wide berth. The fear was palpable. This town belonged to Decker now. An hour passed. I nursed my drink and listened. They talked about nothing important until their 4th round. Then their voices lowered. Shipments coming through Wednesday, Tyler said. Boss wants us at the old Miller farm at midnight. My farm. My blood ran cold. The whole thing? Vince asked, sounding nervous. Tyler nodded. Yeah, big payday. We're using her barn foundation as the transfer point. Marco snorted. What's left of it anyway? They laughed again. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. What about the woman? Vince asked. Her and the kids disappeared. Tyler waved his hand dismissively. Sheriff's looking for them. Besides, where's she gonna go? No money, no family. She'll turn up. If only they knew how right they were. I was turning up right now. I finished my drink and stood to leave. As I passed their table, Tyler's hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. Haven't seen you here before, he said, eyes trailing over me. New in town. I kept my eyes down, voice soft. Just passing through. Why don't you sit with us? It wasn't a question. I pulled my wrist away gently. Maybe another time. His eyes narrowed. Do I know you? My heart pounded as I forced a smile. I don't think so. Tyler kept staring. You look familiar. I get that a lot, I said. I have one of those faces. He finally shrugged and let me go. I walked out slowly, fighting the urge to run. In the parking lot, I took deep breaths of the cool night air. That was too close. Tyler had almost recognized me, even with the disguise. I couldn't risk going back to the bar, but I had what I needed. Wednesday, midnight, my farm, some kind of shipment. I started the truck and drove back to Martha's, mind racing. I needed to get the kids somewhere safe. Then I needed a plan to take down Decker and his entire operation. As I drove through the dark country roads, I realized something that made my skin crawl. The way Tyler looked at me in the bar wasn't recognition. It was something else. He was looking at me the way a predator looks at prey. Did he know who I was all along? Was he playing with me? Or worse, was I walking into a trap? I pressed harder on the gas pedal. I needed to check on my children. Now, Martha's house came into view, dark except for the porch light. It was past midnight. Everyone should be asleep. So why was the front door slightly open? I killed the headlights and coasted to a stop 100 yards away. Every instinct screamed danger. Silently, I moved through the shadows toward the house, gun already in my hand. The night was too quiet. No crickets, no frogs. Through the window, I could see Martha tied to a kitchen chair. Blood trickled from her temple. My stomach dropped. Where were my children? A figure moved inside. Not Martha. Someone else. Decker had found us. I pressed my back against the wall, mind whirling. I couldn't go in guns blazing. Not with the kids inside. I needed to be ghost again. Completely. I circled to the back of the house, to the window of the room where Emma and Liam had been sleeping. The curtain moved slightly. Someone was in there with my children. and they were about to learn the most important lesson of their lives. Never come between a mother and her cubs, especially when that mother was trained to be the perfect killing machine. I slipped through the back door like a shadow. The kitchen floor creaked under Martha's weight as she struggled against her bonds. Our eyes met. She tried to speak through her gag, eyes wide with warning. Too late. The barrel of a gun pressed against the back of my head. "Move and you die," a man's voice growled. I froze, not from fear, but from calculation. His breathing was heavy, nervous. The gun shook slightly against my skull. This wasn't a professional. This was Vince, the youngest member of Decker's crew. "Where are my children?" I asked, voice deadly calm. "Shut up. Hands where I can see them." I raised my hand slowly. "The children," I repeated. "If you've hurt them." "They're fine," Martha managed to say, having worked the gag loose. Sleeping through it all, thank God. Relief washed over me, followed immediately by cold fury. They had invaded this home, threatened an old woman, endangered my children. "Decker sent you?" I asked Vince. "Boss wants to talk to you," he replied. "Just you. Come quiet, and nobody gets hurt." I almost laughed, as if I would ever trust that promise. "And if I refuse?" The gun pressed harder. "Then I take you anyway, and maybe the kids come too. Your choice." No choice at all. I had to go with him, but not as a victim. "All right," I said softly. "Just let me say goodbye to my children." "No way," Vince snapped. "We're leaving now." I sighed as if resigned. "At least let me leave a note, so they don't worry." Martha caught my eye. She knew something was coming. "Fine," Vince grunted. "Make it quick." He pushed me toward the counter where a notepad lay. I reached for a pen, and then I moved. 8 years disappeared in an instant. My elbow shot backward, connecting with his solar plexus. As he doubled over, I grabbed his gun hand and twisted. The weapon clattered to the floor. Vince recovered faster than I expected, swinging wildly at my head. I ducked and drove my knee into his stomach. He gasped and stumbled back. "What the?" he wheezed. I didn't give him time to finish. My fist connected with his throat, cutting off his words and his air. He dropped to his knees, eyes bulging with shock and confusion. One chop to the back of his neck, and he collapsed unconscious. Martha stared at me, mouth open. "Sarah? What? How did you?" I grabbed a knife from the drawer and cut her free. "I'll explain later. Check on the kids." While she hurried to the bedroom, I zip-tied Vince's hands and feet, then gagged him with his own bandana. He wouldn't wake for hours, but I wasn't taking chances. "They're still asleep," Martha whispered when she returned. "How was that possible with all this commotion?" "I gave them Benadryl earlier," I admitted. "They had allergies." Martha's eyes narrowed. "You knew this was coming." "I suspected," I corrected, searching Vince's pockets. I found his phone and a set of car keys. "We need to leave. Now. Where Vince is, others will follow." "Sarah." Martha grabbed my arm. "What is going on?" "The move you just pulled, that wasn't self-defense class at the YMCA. I met her eyes. "No, it wasn't." "Who are you?" The question hung between us. I didn't have time for the full truth. "Someone who can protect those children," I said. "Someone who can end this. But I need your help." Martha studied my face for a long moment. Then she nodded. "What do you need?" "A place to hide the kids where Decker can't find them. Somewhere off the grid." "My sister's cabin," she said without hesitation. "In the mountains. No electricity, no phone. Nobody knows about it except me." "Perfect. How far?" 3 hours by back roads. I nodded. "Pack essentials for the kids. We leave in 5 minutes." While Martha gathered supplies, I checked Vince's phone. There were 3 missed calls from Tyler. They were looking for him. I texted Tyler, got delayed. Still watching the house. No sign of her yet. The reply came seconds later. "Keep us posted. Don't screw this up. That'll buy us some time." I grabbed Vince's unconscious form and dragged him to the pantry, securing him to a pipe with more zip ties. Then I took his gun and tucked it into my waistband. Martha appeared with 2 small backpacks. "Ready." I gathered my sleeping children, one in each arm. They stirred but didn't wake as we carried them to Martha's car. "I'll drive," Martha insisted. "You look like you need to think." She was right. We pulled away from the house, lights off until we reached the main road. As we turned onto the highway, I saw headlights in the distance, heading toward Martha's place. We'd gotten out just in time. The children slept in the back seat as Martha navigated dark country roads. I stared out the window, mind working overtime. You were military, Martha said after 20 minutes of silence. It wasn't a question. I nodded. Once. Special forces? I glanced at her, surprised. My husband was Army Rangers, she explained. Before he died, I recognized the way you move, the way you fight. I decided to give her part of the truth. Delta Force. 8 years ago. Martha whistled low. The best of the best. I left that life behind when I had Emma, I said. Or I thought I did. And Decker? He's not just some local thug, is he? No, I agreed. He's something much worse. We fell silent again as the car climbed into the mountains. The children stirred occasionally, but stayed asleep, exhausted by the stress of the past 2 days. We're almost there, Martha said as we turned onto a dirt road barely visible in the darkness. The cabin appeared, a small shadow among the trees. No lights, no nearby neighbors. Miles from civilization. It's not much, Martha apologized as we carried the children inside. It's perfect. The single room held a wood stove, 2 beds, and basic furniture. A hand pump provided water from a well. Solar lamps gave soft light. We settled the children onto one of the beds and covered them with thick quilts. I need to go back, I said once they were comfortable. Martha's head snapped up. What? What? Decker thinks he has me cornered. That gives me an advantage. I checked the gun I'd taken from Vince. 6 bullets. Not enough. I need to get to my storage unit again. And then what? Martha demanded. Take on a dozen armed men by yourself? I met her eyes. If I have to. She shook her head. That's suicide. Staying hidden is worse. I countered. They'll never stop looking. My children will never be safe. Martha sat heavily in a wooden chair. At least wait until morning. I can't. By morning, they'll know Vince failed. They'll be hunting us harder than ever. I checked my watch. 2:17 a.m. I need to move now, while they're still confused. Martha looked at my sleeping children, then back at me. What do I tell them if you don't come back? The question hit me like a physical blow. What if I didn't come back? What would happen to Emma and Liam? Tell them, my voice caught. Tell them their mother loved them more than anything in this world. Tell them I did what I had to do to keep them safe. Martha's eyes filled with tears. You'd better come back, Sarah Miller. Those babies need you. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Take my car, she said, pressing the keys into my hand. And this. She pulled an old revolver from her bag. Roy's service weapon. 6 shots, but it's reliable. I checked it quickly. Loaded and clean. Thank you. One more thing, Martha said. You're not alone in this fight. I looked at her questioningly. This county has been suffering under Decker's thumb for 3 years. There are people who would help if they knew someone was finally standing up to him. Hope flickered briefly. Who? Roy's old hunting buddies. Former military, most of them. They meet at Jim Baker's farm every Thursday. Martha checked her watch. Which is tomorrow. I considered this. Allies would change everything. But could I trust them? How many? 8, maybe 10. Good men. Scared but good. 8 ex-military against Decker's crew. Better odds than just me alone. I'll think about it, I promised. Dawn was approaching as I prepared to leave. I stood over my sleeping children, memorizing their peaceful faces. I'll be back, I whispered, kissing each forehead gently. I promise. As I turned to go, Emma's eyes fluttered open. Mommy? Where are you going? My heart clenched. Just out for a little while, baby. Go back to sleep. Her small hand grabbed mine. Don't leave. I knelt beside the bed. I have to, sweetheart. Just for a little while. Ms. Martha will take care of you. Emma's eyes, so much like her father's, searched mine. You look different. I touched my dyed hair, self-consciously. It's still me. No, she said, suddenly serious. Your eyes are different. Like when you scared away the mean dog that tried to bite Liam. Children see everything, even the things we try to hide. I'll come back, I promised again. She nodded solemnly. I know. You're going to fight the bad men who burned our home. I froze. How did you? I heard you and Ms. Martha talking. It's okay, Mommy. She squeezed my hand. Daddy always said you were the strongest person he ever met. Tears threatened, but I blinked them away. Go back to sleep, baby. She closed her eyes obediently. I stood and found Martha watching from the doorway. "They always know more than we think," she said softly. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Outside, the eastern sky was turning pink. I started Martha's car and headed down the mountain, back toward a confrontation 8 years in the making. Decker thought he'd cornered a helpless single mother. He was about to meet Ghost instead. But as I drove through the dawn light, doubt crept in. 8 years was a long time. My skills might be rusty. And Decker, no, Reeves, had resources I couldn't match. What if I failed? What would happen to Emma and Liam? The thought of my children growing up without me made my chest ache. But the thought of them growing up hunted by Decker was worse. I pressed harder on the gas pedal. There was no going back now. The war had already begun. I froze mid-step when I heard the click of a gun behind me. The abandoned mill was supposed to be empty except for the 2 guards I'd already knocked out. Someone else was here. Someone who knew how to move as quietly as I did. "Don't move, Ghost," a woman's voice whispered. Only my old team called me Ghost. I slowly turned around, my hand inching toward the knife hidden at my ankle. The moonlight streaming through the broken windows caught on the barrel of a pistol aimed at my chest. "Martha," I gasped. My neighbor stepped from the shadows, holding the weapon with the confidence of someone who'd used it before. This wasn't the kind woman who baked cookies for my children. This was someone else entirely. "You're not the only one keeping secrets in this town," she said, lowering the gun slightly. My mind raced. Had I misjudged everything? Was Martha working with Decker? "Your children are safe," she continued, seeing the panic in my eyes. "I moved them to a secure location after you left." "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice barely above a whisper. "DEA. I've been working undercover for 14 months, tracking the Blackwater Gang's gun smuggling operation." The floor seemed to shift beneath my feet. All this time, I thought I was the only one hiding in plain sight. "You knew who I was?" "All along." Martha shook her head. "Not until the fire. The way you moved that night, the way you assessed the situation, no ordinary farmer does that. Then I ran your fingerprints." I cursed myself for not being more careful, for letting my guard down in my years playing farmer. "Why didn't you say anything?" I asked. "Same reason you didn't. Cover to maintain." Martha nodded toward the office where Decker kept his records. "What did you find?" I pulled out my phone, showing her the photos I'd taken of shipping manifests and contact lists. Enough to connect Decker to weapons dealers in 3 states. But I still need proof he's James Reeves. Martha's eyes widened. "The CIA handler who betrayed your team in Kandahar." I nodded grimly. "The same. There's something else you should know," Martha said, holstering her weapon. "Your farm wasn't random. Decker chose it specifically. He knows exactly who you are." Cold fear washed over me. Not for myself, but for Emma and Liam. "They're coming for you tonight," Martha continued. "Decker's gathered everyone. They're planning something big." I checked my watch. 2 hours until midnight. Not much time. "I need to get to my children," I said, already moving toward the door. Martha caught my arm. "No, that's what he wants. He's trying to flush you out." "Then what do you suggest?" A small smile played on Martha's lips. "I suggest we stop playing defense. My team could be here in 20 minutes. I shook my head. "Too risky. If Decker sees federal agents, he'll disappear again. I've waited 8 years for this chance." "What's your plan?" Martha asked. I thought my farmhouse. The land I knew inch by inch, where I trained in secret, keeping my skills sharp even as I pretended to be nothing more than a widow trying to make ends meet. "I'm going to set a trap," I said. "On my terms, on my ground." Martha studied me for a long moment. "You're going to face them alone?" "I'm going to finish what started in Kandahar." As we slipped out of the mill, a truck engine rumbled in the distance. We ducked behind a stack of old lumber just as headlights swept across the yard. 3 of Decker's men emerged, rifles in hand. "They're checking the perimeter," Martha whispered. "They must know someone broke in." One of the men shouted, having discovered his unconscious comrades. The others ran toward the sound. "We need to move." "Now," I said. We crept along the shadows until we reached Martha's truck, hidden half a mile down the road. "My team can create a diversion," Martha offered as we drove. "Give you time to prepare." I shook my head. No, I need them to think I'm alone and vulnerable. That's the only way Decker will come himself. Martha didn't look convinced. At least let me give you backup. I can position snipers on the ridge behind your property. Too many variables, I insisted. But I need one thing from you. Name it. Keep my children safe, no matter what happens. Martha nodded solemnly. I promise. At my farmhouse, I moved with practiced efficiency. 8 years of peaceful farming hadn't dulled my instincts. I retrieved weapons from hidden compartments throughout the house, places my children never knew existed. I set up trip wires along likely entry points, rigged flashbang grenades to disorient rather than kill. As I worked, Martha's phone buzzed. The color drained from her face as she read the message. What is it? I asked. My safe house has been compromised, she said, her voice tight with worry. My agent isn't responding. Fear clutched at my throat. The children? Martha was already dialing. I don't know. Stay here. I'll find out. I grabbed my rifle, checking the site. If they have my children, I'm going after them. And walk right into Decker's trap? That's exactly what he wants. The phone connected, and Martha turned away to speak in hurried whispers. I continued preparing, setting up a defensive position in the kitchen with clear lines of sight to all entrances. When Martha returned, her expression told me everything. They're gone, she said. The agent was knocked unconscious. Emma and Liam are missing. The world seemed to stop spinning. My children, my entire reason for leaving behind Ghost and becoming Sarah Miller. It's Decker, Martha confirmed. He left a message for you. Before she could continue, headlights appeared at the end of my long driveway. One vehicle, then another, then a third. Looks like he's coming to deliver it personally, I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. Martha raised her pistol. What do we do? I checked my weapons one last time. You get the high ground. Call your team. I'll handle Decker. Sarah, there's at least 10 of them out there. I smiled grimly. Then it's almost a fair fight. As Martha slipped out the back door, I positioned myself in the darkness of my kitchen. A spotlight swept across the front of the house. Then Decker's voice, amplified by a megaphone, cut through the night. Ghost, I have your children. Face me like you should have in Kandahar. I stepped onto my porch, hands raised, heart thundering in my chest. Had I just sacrificed everything by trying to reclaim my past? The spotlight blinded me as I stood on my porch, hands raised. Behind the glare, I could make out the shapes of armed men spreading out across my front yard. My farm, my sanctuary for 8 years, had become a battlefield. Tell your men to lower their weapons, I called out. Then we'll talk. A figure stepped forward, staying just beyond where I could see clearly. Decker, the man who had betrayed my team in Kandahar. The man who now held my children. You're not in a position to make demands, Ghost, he said, using my old call sign. 8 years playing farmer. I have to say, I'm impressed with your patience. Where are my children? I demanded, squinting against the light. Safe. For now. Decker moved closer, finally stepping into view. They don't know, do they? About their mother's true identity? About the blood on her hands? I said nothing, calculating distances, counting shadows. 8 men that I could see, probably more hidden in the darkness. You can have them back, Decker continued. All you have to do is walk away. Disappear for real this time. Like my team did. I shot back. The team you left to die. A bitter laugh escaped him. Is that what this is about? Revenge for Kandahar? This is about my farm. My children. My life that you tried to destroy. Decker shook his head. I gave you a chance, Ghost. All you had to do was pay the protection money. But you had to be stubborn. You picked my farm on purpose, I said. You knew exactly who I was. Not at first, he admitted. That was just dumb luck. But then Tyler recognized you at the bar. Said you reminded him of a commander he'd heard about. The pieces fell into place after that. Behind Decker, I spotted movement. Someone was approaching from the side of the house. I kept my expression neutral, not wanting to give them away. So now what? I asked, taking a step forward to keep Decker's attention. You kill me? Take my children. I'm not a monster, Ghost. Decker spread his hands. The children go free. You come with us. Simple exchange. And then what? You finish what you started in Kandahar. Something like that. I took another step forward, watching as the figure behind Decker grew closer. Not one of his men. The movement was too careful, too practiced. How about a counteroffer? I said, stalling for time. You return my children, turn yourself in, and I let your men leave alive. Decker laughed. You think you could take on all of us? You've been out of the game too long. Maybe, I conceded, but I've got one advantage you don't. What's that? I never came alone. On cue, Martha emerged from the shadows, her pistol pressed against Decker's back. Federal agent, she shouted. Everyone drop your weapons. Chaos erupted. Decker's men turned, weapons raised. I dropped to one knee, drawing the pistol I'd hidden in my boot. 2 quick shots took down the men nearest to me. Behind me, glass shattered as someone broke through my kitchen window. I spun, firing blindly, diving for cover behind the porch railing as bullets splintered the wood around me. Through the gunfire, I heard Martha's voice calling for backup, heard Decker shouting orders to his men. A bullet grazed my arm, hot pain slicing through muscle. I ignored it, focusing on the shadow moving through my kitchen. Someone had gotten inside. Rolling to my feet, I crashed through my own front door, landing in a crouch with my weapon raised. The intruder turned, gun aimed at my head. Commander Miller? The voice was familiar. The face, illuminated by the faint light filtering through the windows, was one I'd seen around town for months. Tyler. I kept my gun trained on him. Put your weapon down. He didn't move, his eyes wide with shock. You're supposed to be dead in Kandahar. Sorry to disappoint, I said, inching closer. How do you know about Kandahar? Tyler's gun hand trembled. I was Army Rangers. After you and your team were reported killed in action, they sent us in. We found bodies, dog tags. My blood ran cold. What else did you find? Weapon crates. American-made. The kind that shouldn't have been there. His voice dropped. They told us to forget what we saw. Next thing I know, I'm discharged with a file full of black marks. Outside, the gunfire had quieted. Either Martha's backup had arrived, or Decker's men had gained the upper hand. I couldn't risk waiting to find out. Where are my children, Tyler? The old hunting cabin, 3 miles north. He lowered his weapon slowly. Decker's lying to you, Commander. He's not here for revenge. Then what does he want? There's a shipment coming in. Biggest one yet. He needs your farm as the distribution point. And my children? Insurance. To make sure you cooperate. I kept my gun steady, watching his eyes. Why are you telling me this? Because he lied to all of us, Tyler said, his voice bitter. Said you were gun runners. That your team was dirty. That you deserved what happened in Kandahar. The front door crashed open behind me. I spun, ready to fire, but it was Martha. We've got 5 in custody, she said breathlessly. But Decker's gone. Tyler stepped forward. I know where he's headed. Martha raised her weapon. Who's this? He knows where my children are, I said, not taking my eyes off Tyler. And he's going to take us there. You can't trust him, Martha warned. I don't, I assured her. But right now, he's the only lead we have. Tyler nodded toward my injured arm. You should bandage that first. I ignored him, checking my weapon. We move now. Martha, your team can secure the farm. My team is 3 agents who are in the area, Martha admitted. The rest are still 30 minutes out. Outside, one of Decker's men groaned, trying to crawl toward a discarded rifle. I stepped on his hand, pinning it to the ground. Where's Decker going? I demanded. The man spat blood. Go to hell. Tyler nudged him with his boot. The shipment's coming tonight, isn't it? That's why everyone was called in. Fear flashed across the man's face before he could hide it. I looked at Tyler. What shipment? Weapons. Military grade. Enough to arm a small army. Tyler's expression was grim. Same kind we found in Kandahar. The pieces clicked into place. This wasn't just about my farm or revenge. This was about finishing the operation that had gone wrong 8 years ago. We need to move, I said, already heading for Martha's truck. If Decker gets those weapons. What about the children? Martha asked. I checked my watch. The cabin is on the way to the drop point. We get Emma and Liam first, then stop the shipment. Tyler climbed into the back of the truck. You're going to need help. Decker won't be alone. Why should I trust you? I asked. Because I was there, Tyler said quietly. In Kandahar. I saw what they did to your team, and I've been looking for a way out ever since. I studied him for a long moment, then nodded. One wrong move, and I put a bullet in you myself. As we drove through the darkness, I tried to focus on the mission ahead, but all I could think about were my children, terrified and alone. Had I made the right choice, bringing them to this small town? Had I truly believed I could leave ghosts behind? Martha's phone rang. She answered, listening intently before her face paled. "What is it?" I asked. She covered the phone. "They found explosives at the safe house. Professional grade." My stomach dropped. Decker wasn't just after my children. He was sending a message. Or covering his tracks, Tyler suggested from the back seat. Martha ended the call. "There's more. The weapons shipment? It's not just guns. My source says they're moving experimental military tech. Prototype weapon systems that were supposed to be destroyed. The same kind from Kandahar?" I asked, glancing at Tyler. He nodded grimly. "The kind that melted flesh from bone. The kind no one was supposed to know about." The road ahead disappeared into darkness as we left the town lights behind. Somewhere out there were my children, and beyond them, a threat I thought I'd left behind 8 years ago. "How much further to the cabin?" I asked. 2 miles, Tyler answered. "But we can't just drive up. Decker will have men watching." I checked my weapon, wincing as the movement pulled at my injured arm. "Then we go in quiet, just like old times, just like Kandahar, the mission that had destroyed my team. The mission I'd survived only to spend 8 years hiding. Now, I was walking back into the same nightmare. But this time, my children's lives hung in the balance. And this time, I wouldn't fail. A gunshot cracked through the night. I pulled Tyler to the ground as a bullet whizzed over our heads. We had been spotted approaching the old hunting cabin. "They know we're coming," I whispered, pressing my body against the cold earth. The cabin sat in a small clearing ahead, a dim light flickering through its dirty windows. My children were in there. Martha crawled beside me, her gun drawn. I count 3 men outside, probably more inside. I studied the cabin through the darkness. 1 guard on the porch, smoking. 2 more walking the perimeter. Simple security, but enough to make this difficult. "We need a distraction," Tyler whispered. I pointed to the old truck parked near the cabin. "Can you get to it without being seen?" Tyler nodded. "What's the plan?" "Start the engine. Draw them away from the east side. Martha and I will go in through the back window." "That's not much of a plan," Martha said. "Got a better one?" I asked. She shook her head. Tyler crept away, disappearing into the shadows as he circled around toward the truck. I waited, counting seconds in my head, trying not to think about what might be happening to Emma and Liam inside that cabin. "Your arm's still bleeding," Martha noted, nodding toward my injury. I had wrapped it hastily with a strip of cloth for my shirt. "I've had worse." In Kandahar, my jaw tightened. Among other places, the truck's engine suddenly roared to life, headlights blazing. The guards outside the cabin whirled toward the noise, weapons raised. Tyler revved the engine, sending the truck lurching forward before spinning it around, tires spraying dirt. "Now," I whispered to Martha. We sprinted through the darkness toward the back of the cabin. I reached the window first, peeking inside. My heart nearly stopped. Emma and Liam sat huddled together on a dirty mattress, their hands tied in front of them. They looked scared but unharmed. A man I didn't recognize stood guard by the door, his back to us. Outside, shouting and more gunfire erupted as Tyler led the other guards on a wild chase. "Cover me," I told Martha, sliding my knife from its sheath. The window was old, its lock rusty. It took only seconds to force it open. The guard turned at the sound, reaching for his weapon, but I was already through the window. My knife found his throat before he could shout a warning. I caught his body before it hit the floor, lowering it silently. "Mommy," Emma's voice quivered in the dim light. I rushed to my children, cutting their bonds. "It's okay, baby. Mommy's here. The bad men said you weren't coming back," Liam whispered, tears streaking his dirty face. "They lied," I said, hugging them both close. "I will always come for you." Martha climbed through the window. "We need to move. Tyler won't be able to keep them distracted for long." I nodded, helping my children to their feet. "Stay close to me. Do exactly as I say." Emma clutched my hand. "Are you hurt, Mommy? There's blood on your shirt." "Just a scratch," I assured her. Nothing to worry about. Martha checked the door, then motioned us forward. Clear. We slipped out the back of the cabin into the cool night air. The sound of the truck engine had faded, along with the shouting. Either Tyler had successfully led the guard away, or they caught him. The road's that way, Martha whispered, pointing east. We can't go back to the farm, I said. Decker will be waiting. My backup should be there by now, Martha argued. And if they're not, I shook my head. Too risky with the children. A twig snapped nearby. I pushed Emma and Liam behind me, raising my gun toward the sound. Tyler emerged from the darkness, breathing hard. They're right behind me, he panted. Lost the truck about half a mile back. As if to confirm his words, shouts echoed through the trees. Flashlight beams swept the forest floor. Head for the creek, I ordered. We can follow it downstream to the old mill. We ran through the woods, my children stumbling in the darkness. I carried Liam when he fell, ignoring the burning pain in my injured arm. Behind us, the shouts grew louder. They were gaining. There, Martha pointed ahead. The moonlight glinted off the surface of the creek. We splashed into the cold water, staying close to the bank where trees provided cover. The water would hide our scent and our tracks. Mommy, I'm scared, Emma whispered, clutching my hand. I know, sweetheart, I said, but you're being so brave. We followed the creek for what seemed like miles, the children shivering in their wet clothes. Finally, the dark shape of the abandoned mill appeared ahead. Almost there, I encouraged them. A shot rang out. Martha cried out, falling to one knee. Martha! I turned back, helping her up. Keep going, she gasped, blood spreading across her pant leg. Get the children to safety. More gunfire erupted behind us. I pushed Emma and Liam toward Tyler. Take them, I ordered. Get inside the mill. Mom, no, Emma cried. Go with Tyler, I insisted. I'll be right behind you with Martha. Tyler hesitated, then nodded, leading my children forward. I slipped Martha's arm over my shoulder, helping her limp toward the mill. Behind us, flashlights bounced through the trees. Decker's men were closing in. We reached the mill just as bullets splintered the wood around us. I pulled Martha through the door, slamming it shut behind us. The office upstairs, Martha gasped. Secure room. Tyler was already leading the children up the rickety stairs. I helped Martha follow, each step clearly agony for her. Behind us, the main door crashed open. Ghost! Decker's voice echoed through the empty mill. I know you're in here. You're only making this harder on yourself. We reached the office, its metal door a stark contrast to the decaying wood around it. Martha's DEA outpost. She fumbled with keys, her hands slick with blood. Hurry, I whispered, listening to the footsteps climbing the stairs. The lock turned. We tumbled inside, slamming the door shut just as bullets pinged against the metal. We're trapped, Tyler said, looking around the small room. Martha limped to a desk, opening a drawer to reveal a satellite phone. Not yet, we're not. As she called for backup, I checked her wound. The bullet had gone through her calf. Painful, but not life-threatening if we got her medical attention soon. Help's coming, Martha announced, hanging up. 15 minutes. We won't last 15 minutes, Tyler said, peering through the small window. They're setting up charges on the door. My children huddled in the corner, their eyes wide with fear. This wasn't the life I had wanted for them. This wasn't why I had left behind Ghost and become Sarah Miller. Mom, Emma said quietly, are you a real soldier? Like in my books. I knelt beside her. Yes, baby, I was. Then we're going to be okay, she said with complete trust. Because you're the strongest person I know. Her words hit me like a physical blow. For 8 years, I had been running from my past, hiding who I really was. But now, that past, my training, my skills, was the only thing that might save my children. I looked at Tyler. How many explosives does Decker normally carry? Enough to blow this door, he replied. What? Because we're not going to wait for him to use them. Give me your jacket, I told Tyler, my mind racing with a plan. Outside, Decker's men were preparing to breach the door. We had minutes, maybe less. Tyler handed over his jacket without question. I tore strips from it, then turned to my children. Emma, Liam, I need you to be very brave now, I said, keeping my voice calm. We're going to play a game, like hide and seek, but with special rules. Their small faces looked up at me, trusting despite their fear. I wrapped the strips of fabric around their heads, covering their ears. This will keep you safe from the loud noise, I explained. And these, I handed them each a piece of Martha's scarf to cover their mouths. Will help you breathe if the air gets smoky. Martha watched me from where she sat propped against the wall, her leg bandaged with strips from her own shirt. What are you thinking, Ghost? They expect us to be huddled in here, waiting for them to blow the door, I said. But we're going to surprise them instead. I moved to the small window, peering out. 3 of Decker's men stood in the hallway, preparing explosive charges. Decker himself was nowhere to be seen. Tyler, do you know how to use that? I asked, nodding toward Martha's service weapon. He nodded. Army Rangers, remember? Good.